It's. I thought that was a cool design. They got rid of it. I don't see them hardly at all anymore.
No, they make overlays you can put on your screens for that.
Oh,
so
interesting.
you can get those and just like cut it to size.
Oh,
So, but yeah.
that's cool. That makes sense.
So we are recording. We're live, not live, but we're live.
We're almost live.
Yes.
Wait,
All
is
right.
this? Is this?
Yeah, I just ran the intro and everything.
All right, sweet. Well, here we are
So here we are.
talking about Matt finished TVs.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So last night we watched Salo or 120 Days, or the 120 Days of Sodom. And we also watched Midsummer by Ari Aster, who's a newer director, kind of. But he's made a lot of headway in the horror genres. So the first one we watched is 120 Days of Sodom.
Yeah, that
What?
that was something, so we watched that last night, and having a little bit of time for it to stew did not make it any better. Thinking back on it, it's more graphic, it's like having a memory that's like really bad, and then it's worse because you remember it. So, intro, nice and slow. You see that they're obviously
long,
not.
Yes, very long.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, since it was a period piece, they're showing where things were and what was going on, and what kind of drew the kids there.
Like, even the beginning of the sexual deviant shit that's in the film wasn't too outlandish for stuff that I've seen in other films. So it was just like, oh, this is nothing special. Like, it was weird to me. Up until pretty far into the film, it's 2.5 hours, close to that, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, somewhere in there. Like, it wasn't until that last, it wasn't until
the circle of blood.
Yeah, the circle of the end of Circle of Shit, which is like well over halfway into the film.
What's a brief overview of this for anybody who's watching, listening?
So, let me pull up the plot.
Because it's you get so caught up in the depravity of it, you kind of
it really takes you out of what everything else in the world is going on.
Yeah.
So it's something that takes place in Italy. Yeah. 1944, the Republic of Salo in the fascist-occupied portion of Italy. 4 wealthy men of power, the Duke, the Bishop, the Magistrate, and the President, agree to marry each other's daughters as the first step in a debauched ritual. They rule that when they get to the mansion, their daughters must be completely naked at all times. So those naked chicks were their daughters.
Wow,
I didn't catch that.
I did not catch that either.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a whole nother thing to add into how fucking weird that movie is.
Yeah. So that means that the recruits, the boys that were already there, do you remember that part whenever they were in the kitchen and he straight trips her and just starts going at her? He was fucking one of their daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was his. You never know.
Maybe.
I mean, it doesn't. The thing that weirded me out at the beginning of the movie, it wasn't them being taken from their families or anything, because that's stuff you see in a lot of the period pieces for World War II, which is when this is supposed to take place. And so it's World War II. When did World War II end?
Oh, I'm not a history buff, unfortunately.
Because this is saying 1944. I don't remember when.
Well, I can.
Thank you, Google. 1945. So it still would have been. It would have been the very
right
ass
the
end of World War II. Just the whole thing about, yes, you will marry my daughter and my brother will marry my other daughter. That was just weird to me. I was like, oh, that's incestuous.
Yes.
I incest, you must stop.
Yeah, they didn't, though. They kept going. It kept getting worse.
Yeah, that was the absolute, I think, least of the shit.
So it leads in with boys and girls being kind of picked and chosen by these rich men who kind of have a little spot in the world where they feel they run their own law or can do whatever they want. Now, I don't know the details of how all that worked out, or why they had their own governing laws to do whatever they wanted in that place, but It eventually leads to, sexual abuse right off the bat. And then they slowly start to conform these kids into a very twisted mindset of this being their norm. So there's parts, and this is one of those ones like we watched it so you don't have to, like because you don't want to dig into this one. The first half seems okay, and it gets really crazy after that. But
it makes more sense to me now. Because I was talking about last night, this keeps showing up on a horror list of worst horror films of all time, and it totally it makes more sense
in a different way. It's appalling and repulsive in its own right, which is, I mean, at the end we catch the horror part, which Midsummer, we're kind of that was about a little more than halfway through when you catch that too. So horror is horror. You need a lead in, but what happened in between before the mutilations and the things that make horror was still horrific. Like the midway through through all the
circle
abuse.
of shit stuff. Jesus Christ, that was just. Dude. I kind of felt bad that I ate right before that. I thought I could take that because you've seen Two Girls, One Cup probably at some point, somebody showed it to you or something. So I watched that, but I didn't get sick or have a negative reaction to it. I was just oh, that's fucking nasty.
As long as you're not turned on, you're good.
Because
I see a lot of stuff as science. Where I'm wow, psychologically, what leads people to this point? Which that whole movie, so 120 Days of Sodom, which hindsight is finally clicked today. Everything revolves around anal sex, boys and girls, and everything is permissible thereof, and the stories are talking about the stories that are being told by a woman during this entire thing is they're all having to do with that, which, like I said, hindsight now clicks, but it just gets worse and worse and worse, and these kids are twisted early enough on that they few of them stick around. They don't go completely haywire and get themselves killed or kill themselves. I'm still wondering
that one chick.
Yeah, I don't know what she did. I don't
know.
Her throat was slit. So.
Yeah, her throat was slit, but could she not take it? Which that's fair. That's fair if someone couldn't take that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
So I can completely understand if the character was meant to kill herself. It's not clear to me now. Granted, it may be the interpretation of the film for our subtitles because the film doesn't have an English track, so it's only got subtitles, and it's not exactly an easy film to come by in our country. So it's something that we're kind of at the whim of whatever options are available. There is no option available to us where we can look at it in English, and so the only translations that I could find were just random ones online that you have to download and then attach it to the file.
They're very articulate, though. I think they were probably pretty close to it. They were, when they were referencing philosophers and stuff like that, everything seemed legitimate, phrasing-wise and everything, and how even some of the word transfers being a little bit shorter or less of a perfect sentence in English were probably good translations. There were only a few like that, maybe 5 I can think of through the whole movie that, seemed like they were missing a word, but it was a direct translation. So I appreciated that. But it was, oh God, it's so hard to really just start digging in on this one because it's what happens is the people who are leading this thing were obviously at a very young age.
When they
abused.
started,
or sexually deviant.
That, or they were they just had everything given to them at such an early age, where they when they hit puberty, they just had access to everything. And everything just got boring for them, right? I think we talked about that a little bit last night, but
it's the whole porn talk, when porn desensitizes, and these guys having whatever they wanted, practiced as much as they wanted, and just decided that they wanted to fill every base instinctual desire that came to their mind.
I still can't I think one of the images that just sticks in my head, and like I was just like laying in bed last night staring at the ceiling. Like I got home at like 2:30 this morning, and
I'm gonna get a drink.
I went to sleep. There's Cokes in the fridge. I was trying to go to sleep rather. It probably took me 30 minutes to go to sleep, but I just kind of laid there and stared at my ceiling in the darkness, and like all I could see was like the president, the dude with the fucked up eye.
Yeah.
Like him, like sitting there at the table where they're all eating shit and just like the shit drippings around his mouth.
Oh my god!
Like that's all I could think about. I was like,
that was brutal.
God.
Like whenever, my goodness, bad pull on that vape right there. But whenever like the boy is dressed in the wedding dress, and he has shit all over his face, and then they start kissing. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Like I can't. How fucked up do your taste buds have to be to not just like throw up?
That's, I mean, really.
Like,
yeah.
I can smell the wrong shit and throw up.
I mean, I would see you would think everybody would just be puking furiously.
Yeah. Oh God. Like,
shit can't sit well on the stomach, I would imagine.
It didn't fuck with me as much. Like, it was nasty, but it didn't fuck with me as much when he took a dump and he made the chick come over and do that. Like, it was nasty.
That got me pretty good.
Like, it wasn't until they brought the tray of shit out. Like,
you know, interestingly, they only show one person doing like the gut wrenching thing. I mean, I can't imagine the smell in that room. It's unimaginable because it was
the security
26
was
people
the ones
shit
doing it. Yeah,
but on a plate, you know, or in a
giant silver plate,
silver platter. Yeah,
like,
oh my god. So there's so much. There's so much that can be said.
Yeah,
but yeah, basically it was these dudes were just desensitized to everything. So eventually they tried everything, and these women who were obviously abused, who they had kind of running the show and like almost like just made whores that are, you know, keeping things afloat for these sadistic men. They were giving the ideas that would promote these really effed up things to happen. So, you know, we got these, you know, stories being told, and immediately the guy's going, "That's amazing. We need to try that immediately. Let's do that tonight." You know, like, because she's telling stories about how there was some guy who's like, you know, your shit's not smelly enough. Go get shit from an old beggar woman and bring it in here. It has such more of a pungent, rancid smell. Like, what do you remember reading that in the subtitles? It dropped my stomach, dude, because it was just nothing was ever fucked up enough.
Yeah, it's weird that those guys had daughters, and like the daughters,
they were objects. They wanted to make sure that they knew it throughout the entire thing, and that was...
Which is weird because it like there was a couple of times where the daughters just seemed a little surprised, but not completely. Like they knew their fathers were fucked up and depraved, but then like, oh, I'm good, I'm their daughter.
Yeah.
Right? Like privilege doesn't work there apparently.
No,
like,
at least
there's no privilege.
At least there's an extent where it doesn't, because, you know, like, they're not going to be killed, but that does not mean that they're not subject to absolutely everything else, and that was obvious. Oh,
and
man,
the guards weren't either. Like,
when the adult males started doing stuff with each other in the midst of all that, like, oh god, it was just, it was so graphic. It was like nothing. It was just whatever they decided on a whim sexually they were going to be about, and eventually not even sexually. It became
it was just like, whatever the fuck you want to do at this moment, I'm gonna do it. Like,
killing
which is the definition of anarchy, and what is something that they talk about in the film is like, to truly be to truly have anarchy, you have to have full control over something, which is kind of an oxymoron to me as someone who enjoys and appreciates a lot of the ideas in anarchy. That's not necessarily something that I subscribe to, because I think if you have anarchy, morality is there still, and there was no morality in this, and there was no redeeming quality about this film either.
No, like, I'd say the only thing that I got from it is understanding the extent of human sexual depravity.
Yeah. That
And that there,
I don't even think that I needed that. Like, I don't think that I needed it to that extent, because I just knew that. I mean, you already know that humans are fucked up.
Yeah, you always know that there are some fucked up things or fucked up things that have happened. We if we haven't heard horror stories, we know that it still happens. But I think just seeing the way it played out, seeing the way these men like coerced to make this thing happen, makes me think of the child trafficking ring.
Yeah. Fucking Epstein, man.
Yeah, Epstein didn't kill himself.
Yeah.
So, there must have been some really fucked up stuff to say there other than just child trafficking itself. But
and there's so many people that are involved with that, not just the people that are popular in the media.
Yeah.
That it's insane.
I believe that.
Oh, Jesus, fuck. It's the end there. Oh, God.
I think one of the most interesting parts of the movie though is that there was almost no boy girl. Like it was just everything was an object.
Like the one time that
every
there
kid
was
an
really
object.
obvious boy girl stuff, they killed him.
On which
where the guard kid was banging the black chick.
Oh yeah.
Like that's
well
everything else that was boy girl that I remember was like fucking
well, they were getting their
just weird fetish shit that wasn't actually like fucking or anything.
No, it was just like they were doing experiments, testing things, or they were, trying to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and those kids getting their pleasure outside of the view of these men, pissed them off to the point that they were just ready to kill them, which they did. For the most part did. I loved that one part where everybody was giving everybody away though. Like everybody's throwing everybody under the bus.
Like that is survival instinct. At the same time, I feel like that kind of there's something about society that plays into that today, where people aren't necessarily worried about everyone else as well. There's no. It's really hard to find people that are about the village. It's all about their self.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that idea, even being in a film that's as old as the film was shot in 1975. The initial release date was November 23rd, but then it got pushed back to December because it got banned the day it got released.
Yeah. So did he died right before it was even released?
Yeah,
right?
like 3 weeks before.
Yeah, 17-year-old kid ran him over.
Yeah.
Gotta wonder what that was about.
So hold on.
Stole his car and ran him over with it, I think.
Yeah, it's English language. Salo. The film is a loose adaptation of the 1904 book, The 120 Days of Sodom by Marquis de Sade, or something like that.
Yeah, but I think ultimately what to get from this is there were no redeeming qualities to the film. It was if you really want to know how fucked up things can get, sure.
Yeah.
But the mutilation scene where they're trying to get off during the mutilation and torture of all these people at once,
like pulling the guy's eyeball out and shit, like. And dudes sitting there rubbing a dick,
burning their genitals, cutting their tongues out, like they were.
So some of the actors actually got burned.
I believe it.
Like, yeah, I believe it too.
Because there was the actress where
shitty.
they were holding a lighter under her tits or whatever, and it was like whatever it was, and like it looked like she almost couldn't get away from the heat. So in the midst of acting, she probably just kept acting and then got lit.
That might not have been acting,
right?
Like. Oh, Jesus, fuck, dude! Like,
well,
the ending of the film is not a satisfying ending. So, I
wouldn't assume it was with what the film was.
Yeah, like
that was the only thing I missed. I missed the last 5 minutes.
Not even that. It's like 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Like that last kill that we saw before the video that we have cut off. It then just cuts to the guards, the guard teenagers shaking hands, 2 of them leaving, and 2 of the others that stay behind and just hang out. They're dancing. like arm in arm and shit, like hand in hand. And one's like, so tell me about your girlfriend back home. It's like, and that's the fucking ending. It's like, no, like nothing happens.
Well, I think the idea of that, because I didn't get to see the scene, but I can picture that it is to say that everything is so normalized, no matter how fucked up it is in that place for those kids, because that's all they know. That was survival. That was being alive. You know, like at any whim, they were to be stripped, fucked, or be touching or pleasuring people, or, you know, like at any point for any reason. And dear God, I just can't imagine.
It's God.
So just don't watch it.
Yeah, don't. You don't have to.
You don't have to watch it.
We got to torture ourselves, so you don't have to.
Yeah, it made slow start, and then a lot of shit eating.
Yeah,
and just really
ass eating isn't just a new thing.
No, it's not. No, apparently not. Not when that woman said it 7 years old.
Yeah, like that was.
And then that was a 80-year-old or freaking 60-year-old woman in that thing. So
it's from a 1904 book.
So that means in 1850 she was getting her ass ate. You know what I mean? That's not new.
So
all right.
Jesus
well, let's
Christ.
bury that forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things we'll probably talk about between Midsummer and Salo, because they're both art films, respectively.
Yeah, and Salo had that Criterion Collection artsy kind of thing where things are exaggerated and you only get to see normalized things every now and then, so you kind of get pulled into that that exaggerated world.
Yeah,
everything's a little bit hyperbolic, but
oh Jesus Christ! So Midsummer is a movie that I got to see in theaters, and I love the film. It's for me personally, it's definitely my top 10 favorite horror films. What'd you think about it? Like, because we didn't talk about that nearly as much last night as we talked about Salo.
Yeah, we had to get through a lot of stuff there. We had to vent a lot.
We might have wanted to wait to watch that one just because I feel like Salo may have overshadowed Midsummer to a certain degree, because it's
a little bit, because I mean we have the good cinema, we have it's a new film, so you have that. It was very very pretty and like lots of visual effects, where of course when we were watching so why do I always 120 Days of Sodom, what is it called?
Salo or something.
Salo, there we go.
Salo, like with a little line over.
When we were watching Salo, it looked like it was colored. What do they call it?
Colored.
They put the color in afterwards. It was a black and white film whenever you saw your scene the first time.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I saw from it was black and white.
So I don't know if it was originally in color or not, but it was just, that was the best thing you got out of it, was that it was a color picture. And then we had a ton of effects in Midsummer. So, but yeah, no, I liked Midsummer, and it kind of took the Wicker Man kind of premise, but it had a lot more, I guess, to it. There was a lot more dynamic. You get set up on the character, and the character almost seems to have such a fucked up situation.
Yeah.
Stepping into a fucked up situation, she was just trying to regulate throughout, the entire thing. Weeks before she even got there, she was still trying to find normal.
Yeah.
So, and do we do spoilers here? Do we give away endings?
Yeah.
So
like,
but
one thing that
I'll wrap
this
back
is the
up
first
to it
time
at
that
the
I
end.
thought about this was, I didn't think about this until I was driving home last night, because I do most of my thinking when I'm driving, which is probably not safe.
I think most of us
but
do.
at 2 a.m, there's no one else on the road, so fuck it. There's an old adage, like it's an anecdotal thing, that is what would drive a sane man mad would drive a madman sane. Right? You ever heard that before?
I haven't.
So it comes from a lot of older mental facilities used to take people that were mentally ill that have done atrocious things, and they would put them in fucked up situations to try to drive them into a sane result.
Sure, because that's a norm for them to be in a chaotic situation.
Exactly. And so that's,
I understand that.
Like, that popped in my head last night, and I was like, oh, that's kind of what played out here.
Yeah.
Like-
Only what she made her new sanity probably wasn't what the rest of us would have done. But there was a lot of like, if we went through every character, right? Like there was the guy who was the douchey. I mean, the poor guy's typecast all the time. He's a great actor, but they always
Will Poulter,
yes,
the redhead kid. Yeah,
so they make him as this just like douchey, like he's got his vape pen. He's always like, bro, what the fuck, man? Kind of shit all the time.
Yeah. Why couldn't you wake me up before the people died so I could watch?
Right. So we've got that guy who already,
Yeah.
he's gonna fuck up somehow. That's obvious. We have the boyfriend who's a total pushover. Doesn't have any idea what he wants.
Yeah.
Makes decisions on the fly that just don't make enough sense. He's just kind of cowardice altogether.
Yeah.
Then we have the black guy. What's his name?
I forget his name in that.
He's
in
in
a TV show that I like.
The Good Place.
Yeah.
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 Cheaty. Yeah. So and he had his drive to get his thesis done. And
Josh in the movie.
Josh. Okay.
Just a
so
very
Josh
generic
in the movie.
name.
Yeah. He's
They all have kind of generic names.
They
so.
do. Except for her, of course. They always do
Danny,
because they give her like it's like kind of a girly whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he basically wants to get his thesis done. He's driven in that way. So I didn't see it as clearly as you did, because to me it looks like curiosity is what drew him out and caused his demise. But if you explain it in a way like you did earlier, to where he was focused primarily on that thesis and getting as much information as he could, because that's his PhD in the future,
like this is like, dude, it seems like this is something that he's been working on for a long time, versus Christian, who just pops up and is like, well, man, I could probably ride this, and it would be.
But see, here's the thing: after seeing people die in front of everybody, because there is one point where two elderly people go up to the edge of a cliff.
It's not very far into the film either.
No, it's not.
It's
day 2 or day 3 of being there. It's day 3 of being there that it happens.
Like, so they show up, they do the
it's a 9-day festival.
They do the mushrooms,
and they start off. Yep, day 1 they did the mushrooms,
and then they move in. And so I think I'm not sure if that's day 1, and then they move in on day 2.
They do, because they said, was there any nighttime? And they were like, oh, for a couple hours it was dim, but that's nighttime.
Okay. So that's day 2.
Yes.
So then it would have happened on day 3.
Okay.
So because there was a nighttime between then, I believe.
So yes, and you see 2 elderly people go up and just straight suicide off the edge of this cliff.
Yeah.
One of them, he doesn't do a face dive. He lands on his legs, breaks his legs, and he's just sitting there groaning. And then they all start all groaning with him.
Yeah.
Go over, smash him on the head, and 3 people take turns smashing this dude on the head, who obviously died on the first smash.
Yeah.
After seeing that, why in the fuck would you break a rule? How would you not be looking over your shoulder at every second? I don't care what the situation. And, they show some of the art as the movie goes on that was there from day 1 when they walked into the bunkhouse.
It's all there. Like, it's explaining everything in the film.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. So as they go through and they show little bits and pieces, you're like, oh, that's the fucked up ritual they just did. That's the one they're about to do. It's foreshadowing was great as well. Like you said, I'm gonna have to watch it again just to see some of the stuff at the beginning.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed, I noticed it the first time I watched the film, but when she's laying in bed in her apartment, there's a little girl there's a painting above her, and it's a little girl with a crown, and she's petting a giant bear, which is foreshadowing the end of the film.
Yes.
So,
and man, it was just interesting, because I think character-wise, all of it played well. And I guess if we're going to Josh played well as well. That was the only one that stuck out to me, because I was like, why would he be such a rule breaker all of a sudden? And I guess it's not all of a sudden. I guess really he might have had some preconceived notions to go in that direction, of just getting what he wanted there.
More so than Christian. Like, Christian didn't seem to actually be trying much to do anything. Like,
Christian didn't want to do much. The dude was just kind of, he was a nothing.
He's kind of lazy at everything. Yeah. Like, he's just like, oh, I'm just here. Like,
pretty much.
So,
don't be just here, people.
Yeah, I do that.
I do too. And that's why when I saw it, I was like, fuck, man, I
think I need to do more.
Yeah, I need to show my opinion a little more often. But yeah, so like everybody kind of had their lead into to their demise. But it's almost like you didn't know. I didn't know it would go completely in the direction that it did.
Yeah.
And that was nice. And there was a lot of little things throughout the movie that if you paid attention to, they made it all make more sense, because you can catch what's happening before it happens. And that's nice, because you're like, oh no. I know what's happening. I know what's going to happen.
So I looked up after it came out on video and I got it and I started watching it. I noticed that only sometimes it tells you what the people are saying when they're talking in a foreign language. So, and I also read online that anyone that saw it that knew what language they were speaking, the whole film was basically spoiled for them.
Because they could hear all the stuff they were
because they could just hear
exchanging.
everything. So,
I think interestingly, like they were all wonderful liars.
Yeah.
So they were amazing liars. They could have a smile on their face, no problems with what was going on, because to them it was all big picture. This is for the greater good.
Yeah.
So it was easy for them to lie, smile, laugh, not see all the really fucked up stuff happening. I was intrigued by it. But I think mostly the very ending, like when she was looking into
the fire and
I was thinking, I was like, or even when the boyfriend was in there and she knew, like, I was thinking like she's going to think like, oh, I kind of see that we're actually on the same page, and she went in the exact opposite direction where she's like,
yeah, fuck him.
Yeah, fuck all those people. Like, your family, cool, happy.
Yeah.
That was a pretty twisted way to. I think just her emotion changing so much was the twist at the end that really made me like, oh man.
Don't fuck over your psychologist girlfriend.
Oh.
You'll die.
So what do you think was the most fucked up part?
Man, something that just fucks with me about the film is how they all express the same emotion as someone else that is having an emotional reaction. That fucks with me.
That is so
ingenuine.
Well, here's the thing.
Of a person.
That might not be it. And here's what I took from it, because I thought that was really interesting too. But what I took from it was, usually we die alone.
Yeah.
So when somebody's screaming out in pain, everybody's screaming out in pain, you might feel a little bit of comfort in those last moments. And I think that's what they were doing for the old people who were dying there, the one guy who fell and he's on the ground groaning, and they're all groaning, is saying, I feel your pain, I feel your pain, I feel your pain. I don't think it was meant to be disingenuous, because it was sharing in that very troublesome moment. Showing them some empathy. So, I mean, that's what I took from it. I thought if I was dying, groaning on the ground, and heard everybody else groaning, I'd think at least I wasn't alone.
So from your point of view of it, it's a caring kind of thing. It's
absolutely.
Like, we care about this. We don't
like that they have to suffer.
Yeah.
It's like people, kill a deer quickly, aim right so that the thing doesn't suffer, because they don't want to see that suffering.
Yeah.
Well, they know that suffering is going to have to happen, and they're like, hey, I'll share in that with you for the moment. That's the way I took it. And like, yes, it's really weird, and it's not anything we would do. But that part didn't bother me much, because I took comfort in it, actually. I was like,
fucked with me, because it just felt like, so it goes kind of towards.
Do you feel like it was mocking?
Not necessarily mocking as much as it just adding on to what you said a minute ago about these people are wonderful liars. Yeah. Like, to me, it's ingenuous. It's not actually showing empathy. It's sympathy over empathy. And I think to me, empathy is more important, being able to put yourself in someone's shoes, even though you might not have actually experienced it, and then getting on with the issue. That's always been just kind of my way about going about a lot of things, is empathy over sympathy. But it's something that just, you have to do it from a genuine place. And that just, to me, didn't seem genuine. And so it's like, it's going against one of my core morals.
So
basically.
Like, everything in their lives was a game.
Yeah.
Basically, play the game correctly, play the game right, and play your part in the game. And just like they were laughing all the time amidst all the messed up things that were happening, I wouldn't say disillusioned, but they were somewhere in the midst of And maybe that would be for our culture. We would definitely say that. Like if
Oh,
our
yeah,
culture
definitely.
saw that, but
Our
for
culture
them,
saw this film and they didn't like it.
for them, it was this lightheartedness. But when there was a saturated, heavy moment, they were drawn to be in it. They felt it, empathically almost. But I don't think that they. Well, I wouldn't say that actually. I'm going to take that away. I don't think it was empathic. I think it was part of the game. I think it was them playing their role in the game at the moment. So it wasn't like they felt their pain, but they knew that they were feeling pain, and the best thing they can do is play this game to bring them comfort during their last moments, which was, groan when they groan. And at the end, everybody's smiling and laughing again, It's all like just a big play. And as long as everybody plays their part, everybody can stay happy and ignorant and blissful. And that's the way their people were living.
And trip on mushroom tea.
Yeah.
I said this last night probably too many times, but I love the perception that they give you of hallucinogenics in that film.
Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, I've done ayahuasca and some other things too. So like
exactly.
DMT.
I've done,
and like yes, it's not always like it's not beer goggles where you have everything screwed up. It's usually
it's
a
just
few
little things that are just like a little wavy.
Yeah,
like that. And I enjoyed that because I've never seen that in a film before. I've never seen a film accurate to some form accurately do something that resembles a hallucinogenic experience. Now other people may have done hallucinogenics and gotten some experience that I haven't gotten before, but I've done a shit ton of acid in my day. I've done plenty of mushrooms. Mushrooms aren't necessarily my thing, but I try it every once in a while, and I've never had an experience that wasn't like as far visually as what was depicted in the film. Like, I haven't had anything beyond that. Like, I haven't had anything where it's like people are like, oh man, there's pink elephants everywhere. Like, that's fucking stupid. Like,
same.
I want to slap the shit out of people that say shit like that, because it's like, what the fuck did you take? Because it wasn't that. Like,
because I mean, and I think it depends on if you have a really strong mind too, like how based you are in reality, how much you really analyze things and truly believe what's real. Like, I don't know how it is, with acid, or even like a high dose of mushrooms or anything, but like on DMT, like the hallucination could be different, like within blinks of an eye. Now DMT is like really like off the wall.
That's like the that's
like you
everything I've read. That's the most potent thing you can do, and I haven't been able to do it yet. I want to.
I did 9 bowls in 2 days, and that was like 4 more bowls than anybody else. I just could not get there. Day 1, I was too grounded, and if you're too grounded, it doesn't work. But when you get to the part where you really start hallucinating, the hallucination could be on a picture. You see the picture start doing its thing, you're like, okay. And then I'd close my eyes for a little bit, open my eyes, and it was a different hallucination. But no matter what, I knew I wasn't seeing reality the way it is tangibly in the world.
You were still kind of grounded, which has always been my experience with that stuff. Is like the one time that I had just like had a trip where I wasn't grounded. I was sitting there talking to a what the fuck, one of those like a blind, like a window blind, like one of those thick ones that help block sun. I was sitting there talking to it, trying to convince it not to set the house on fire.
Yeah, that's pretty gone, bro.
Like
that's pretty gone.
So, like,
but I think it does have to do with your base in reality. When you looked at Josh when he was on the mushrooms in the movie, he was relaxed. He was taking everything in because he's a very deep analytical mind. Yeah. So he was just deciphering his experience at the moment. He wasn't thinking that he was trapped in it, where, the douchey, airheaded dude.
Yeah, he was having a horrible time.
What the fuck's happening? Like you don't need to fucking, like he was just losing his shit. And the girl who obviously went through trauma is probably experiencing a lot of
she's not having a good time.
Yeah.
So
you just see different aspects. And there's the dude who's just a miss. And, who knows what he was about or thinking about. Yeah, he's just kind of like, stuff, things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't. But it was a very good depiction of hallucinogenics. It was.
It is. I've done well more acid at one time than any human should probably do. I I went to see the newest Predator film on it, like, and I took a shit ton of it. Like, it's a long story, but two things came out of that. One is no amount of drugs could make that newest Predator film good for me.
Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't attest.
It's pretty horrible. Like oh god. But and two was, even taking that much, I didn't like. People always try to tell me, "Oh man, you just didn't take the right amount. You should take more." Like, I took probably about 8 times what you're supposed to, what most people take.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Like, I was like, you know what? I've been really down lately. I'm gonna take this, and I want to see shit. Like, I didn't see anything more than just what I normally see. You know, like if you stare at a wall, it just kind of looks like it's breathing a little bit. You know.
Yeah.
That's it. So
we can't get on trips because I've got so many trip stories, and I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was wonderful. It was like a beautiful movie if it wasn't about what it was about. You know, like scene wise, like directing wise, just the whole
I think the premise of it to
land.
a certain degree is still beautiful. Like, I like that it's people being put into a different culture that don't understand the culture, and it's them trying to fight to appreciate the culture to a certain degree. And I think that that's important. Like, regardless of how fucked up it is to us,
okay.
I think there's a certain degree of it which falls under that.
Okay, and I can agree if it wasn't the primary goal wasn't to kill every person, but it was.
Yeah.
So dragging them in there, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, as a
his name?
piece,
Pelly? Did you say his name? Pelly? Pelle.
But it's not like being, roped, dragged to a place, and then killed. It was deception. There was just pure deception throughout the entire thing that, kind of entrapped these people. So at which point, I don't know if it really was normal. Those people knew what they were doing, convincing these people they had made friends with to come here and die for their cause.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It takes a different angle because they went out into everyday culture to get these people.
Yeah.
They went into a different culture, stole them from theirs for their own. So
like
I don't know if I can appreciate it as much for that. If it didn't have the intent of,
like, if they knew that they were going to die going, like, it'd probably be a little better.
Exactly. Like in some way, if they could have alluded that would have been, part of the thing, then at least they'd be able to justify it. But really, it was just
I don't
pure
know
deception.
how much of it because the adults, when the two elders kill themselves because they're 72, it's the end of their cycle. The adults around are like, what the fuck's wrong with them? Didn't they know what was going on? Right? So it's like, at what point is it like, maybe this is a weird situation because, like, the guys that went out to find these people probably should have told them, and maybe that's what they were supposed to do, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Well,
and at least, and the people who are kind of stuck there, who aren't leaving, who didn't have the privilege of going out into the world, they probably assumed that they would have informed them of things like, what was it called? It's driving me crazy because I want to say the name of it whenever the old people were committing suicide.
ATTESTUPA. A
Tetstapa. Okay. So when they were doing the Tetstapa, like, it was something that nobody knew why the Americans would freak out about.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know if they were all Americans, but, they wouldn't have any idea why somebody would be bothered by that.
So the 4 characters that you follow are American.
Yes.
And then
what about the 2?
The other 2 were from London.
Okay, there we go.
They have probably generally the same views as us on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Culturally, we can share a lot of that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it was like, they wouldn't know that their friends wouldn't have informed.
Yeah.
Or, that the guy wouldn't have informed them. So anyway,
it's kind of weird that Josh, like, allowed Chick to stay and see that. That's something that's always just struck me as odd because
wait, hold on, are you talking about Danny? allow Danny to stay and see it.
Yeah, because
I
he
think
wanted
Josh
to stay
is
and
too much
see
of a
it.
science mind.
Yeah, but at the same time, like he knows that this person's going through trauma at the same time, and knows that she has problems dealing with it. So, like,
How
even
good of friends
having
were they though?
I mean, the boyfriend and Josh live together.
Well,
right?
maybe the boyfriend standing there, when Danny thought, like, I know Danny,
Like-
Danny and what's basic? Yeah, basic dude. What's his name?
The
boyfriend. Christian, yes. So Danny and Christian didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now Josh did.
Yeah.
He knew. He knew the night before.
Yeah, which is why he gives that look like,
Yeah.
it's like, really?
Real
That's
one?
gonna happen?
Yeah.
Which I think further goes to show how little Christian was actually gave a shit about this until that happened and became something that he thought that he could use to gain an upper hand with his PhD and his thesis.
Yeah. And that's when shit got really crazy. But yes, I don't think they knew what to do, and Josh should have warned them.
Yeah.
But maybe Josh is the kind of scientific mind that thinks that'll take away from their experience. I don't want to alarm them. This is normal for these people's culture.
Yeah.
They should see it. And I mean, that was a really interesting thing too. So what did you think of that? What did you think of the dying at 72?
I think that
Rather than getting
that
old
is
and decrepit.
So there's a certain part of me that says that makes sense because, I mean, you can get more decrepit before you even get to 72, but I think that that also is help. I think part of that is dictated by your environment and your diet and stuff like that as well. Like by the time if I make it to 72, then I'm probably not living a very good life at that point because I'm an obese as fuck. I have a horrible diet. Like I live in America. I'm going to be stressed as shit, probably have dementia, and who the fuck are you people? Where is my horse? Like,
Yeah. Well, we all assume
yeah, like
that's our course.
And so,
but yeah, I
like there's a certain part of me like I was a big proponent of Dr. Kevorkian. Right, I think that
I'm
suicide is okay in certain.
I'm not going to say much, but I understand where you're coming from.
Like, I think there's certain situations where suicide's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, in
tons of pain, constant pain every single day, and nobody will let you get out of your misery in any way, and there's no better way for you. I'd wish for death.
Like there's no argument to me for that. There is I try to argue about depressed people. Like, it's not my place to say what someone can or cannot do with their own body. Mm-hmm. So that's more of, I've lived with depression my whole life, and if I decide that I want to go that route, I would hope people would respect me enough and not, I think it's everyone says
it was selfish.
Yeah, everyone says that it's selfish.
Hate that.
Yeah,
I do hate that people say that because I'm like, if somebody was suffering that badly.
Yeah, let them do it.
Like you're sad because you miss them.
Yeah,
and I get that.
And you want them to suffer more. That's the selfish thing. Like, you want them to continue suffering just because it makes your life easier. That's the selfish thing. Now, there are some caveats to that in my own belief, because if someone has kids, they have a responsibility to those kids to be there until that kid is sound enough to go out and be productive and, do what they need to do as a human.
And that's societally, that's looking at things societally, so that you don't, screw over these kids and anybody they may run into or whatever it may be. So yes, I understand that portion of it, but yes, the selfish part, it's really...
I hate that argument.
It's just really, because it's either you're selfish or I'm selfish.
Yeah, and it's pick one.
Are we making our own decisions here, or do we have to jointly make every single decision? And when it comes to that, it's really touchy because nobody wants to say that. No one wants to. No one does.
Everybody,
if you need to go commit suicide, go. Or if you really feel like it, go for it. Nobody wants to say that because some people just need a shift in order to enjoy life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, life's worth living, and they're helpful to others, and they can keep up with their responsibilities without them being overwhelmed. All that stuff because life's worth it to them at that point.
Exactly.
if there's something like, especially when it comes to like illnesses where, you get old and decrepit and you're just slowly wearing away, or like, or somebody who has so much mental, so many mental issues that they cannot get a grasp on it, they can't grip it, to where it's torture to live. Life is pain, the old Meeseeks idea, like just give me something to do or let me die, like I'll die when I'm done, like wonderful, like serve my purpose. I did like that, because those people had a choice. Now here's the thing: were they brainwashed from the moment they were born to think that? Maybe.
Probably.
But
well, I mean, we're all kind
free,
of brainwashed by the society we grow up in.
Yes, but if they were happy to do so in the end, and they freely gave their lives,
like they didn't fight it at all, so
they
it's like,
did it themselves, and nobody forced them up
have
there.
at it.
They're just like,
and I can appreciate having the hammer on hand.
Yeah.
Because I mean, dude 72 just jumped off a cliff feet first. He ain't coming back from that. Like,
hold on.
He's either dying from blood loss or he's dying from you smashing his head in and preventing some of the preventing the pain from going on longer.
Yeah.
So.
And the explanations they were given, like they were giving the kids from London, sounded so valid.
Yeah, it's like
you really couldn't argue that's their culture.
We've done.
Everybody's happy about it. Everybody's okay with it. Like they know eventually if they get to that point, they've lived a great life, and they walk up there and freely get to go to their own end. But yes, it obviously was fucked up from a visual point to see everybody, blank face staring as these people doom, doom. But we look at death as such a Americans and a lot of other people have a terrible view of death. Period. Because it's like, it's this terrifying end.
Yeah, it's because they don't know what's going
on. Yeah. Nobody has
like,
any idea what's gonna happen or what it's gonna be like or anything like that. So we immediately just act like it doesn't exist. I think pretty much we section it off into a really small portion. We don't realize that is part of life. There's no getting away from it for anybody. So
it's going to happen.
Yeah. So understanding it, having a healthy view of it, and seeing it as not something where, I don't want to be in a hospital bed, crazy, shitting my pants with some kind of like pain in all of my joints, for an extended period of time, just to keep me alive, just to keep the game going, just to keep the, clock ticking for me. No, just...
Yeah, that's putting undue hardship on a lot of people.
Yeah, so the Dr. Kevorkian thing, in that sense, yes. And the jumping off the cliff at your own free will in your old ass age, yes. Like, hell, I'd love to. I want to go skydiving. I'm going to cut the thing. It's going to be like poop parachute. And I'm going to be like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go for the fall. Because, you get to have your way out without having like that long, drawn out, painful process.
Yeah.
That is so hard. And I understand people love their grandparents and stuff. Like, and it gets to a point, sadly, where the grandparents wouldn't be able to make a decision for themselves to do something like that, usually dementia and things like that. Like, Alzheimer's and just things that really draw them out of the real world that, you just have to kind of keep grandma on pills in the home for 5 more years until she passes. But it sucks it just looks like it sucks to die that way.
Do you think they're happy being that way?
Yeah, it just looks like it sucks to die that way.
Like I had a friend of mine lost a pet a couple of weeks ago that he's had since he was a kid. Like he's a younger guy. He's like, I took him to a music festival when he was 12 and I was an adult at this time already. So he's young. I said, well, man, any relationship you have, whether it's with a pet, partner, parent, whatever, that relationship is going to end always. All of your relationships are going to end in some form or fashion. Yeah. And it's sad and it sucks. And a lot of those are going to end because of death. And so that's something that going into a relationship, whether it be a caretaker of a child or a pet, whatever, whether it's your death or theirs, there's a likelihood that is going to be what causes that to end. So going forward in life, accept that very well may be the end of that relationship for you. And that's kind of I started thinking that way after I went to like my 60th funeral, right? Like I've had a lot of friends die in my life. I've seen a lot of people die. Well, more than I should at this age. I think
I'd say.
like, yeah, like, I don't think most people have as many people close to them die as I have in my life. That's why I don't have too many people in my life at the moment. But it's going forward from that. There was two decisions I made on that. One was I wasn't going to funerals anymore because I got sick of it. Like I became so desensitized to funerals, like, and it's like, yeah, they were alive and yeah, they've died at this point, but I don't think they want you to be just upset about it. Like
That's
they probably
the
want you to
hardest
be
part.
happy.
And that's why I think death is so misunderstood. Why it's so it's like just so stigmatized. What's the right word? Like it just something about it is so. I almost want to say taboo to talk about death because
like,
we have religions and things like that make make the subject very sensitive. But whenever it comes to like making it such a sad moment, like now they do celebration of life thing. Let me tell you, it's not much difference whenever deep down we don't understand death or we don't accept death a lot of the time. I think it's that we don't accept death a lot of the time. And then it makes all of those moments painful. So my mother was hilarious. She was an awesome woman, right? She died 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And like it took the longest time before I could have any good feelings when thinking about her just because she died.
Yeah.
Like, and that's an interesting thing because eventually, like you said, we lose all relationships. We spend a lot of time crying over those relationships that are gone, those special people. And I think what we miss is that we had that awesome experience. Now, if we were to put it in something like really simple, like if you played a video game and you're sick of it, but you had a lot of fun playing the video game.
You remember the good shit about it.
Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was cool. Like,
admittedly, it is way easier to remember the shit you hate about something. That's always been easier.
Usually because it's more impactful.
But yeah,
like, oh yeah, we were copacetic, and then
it's something you got to work on, and it's something that we all have to work on. I think because like I'm trying myself still to work on that. That's something that I decided 6 years ago was I wasn't going to any funerals anymore, and I'm not going to look at relationships in my life as something that's always going to be there because, well, it may not be there tomorrow, And so that's something
understandable, and that's.
Yeah,
it's hard because you want to hang on to it like it's something important, but when you might lose it, that makes it seem like, oh, I'll grasp it a little less, I'll grasp it a little like less tightly. That's why I think these people here in this movie, they were like flower child, kind of thing, like where they're just enjoying every experience and moment, and the people who are here, they're enjoying that they're here. When they're gone, like and. Although it seems a little bit disconnected, I think that's not far off of a way that we should kind of adapt in some way, that we should enjoy our moments, be responsible, and do our part. And whenever the things in life that are obviously going to happen, like, and so I think that was one of those moments where you said, like, you're seeing that different culture. It's not messed up, really. It's just different. That when we see those people die, and everybody's normal about it, except for the Americans and the people from London and stuff. It's like it was really screwed up to them.
Oh, dude, it was screwed up to people in the theater. Like, this is the only movie that I've seen that many people leave because they were offended at something. And I told you this last night, but there was 3 specific scenes where this happened. One scene didn't make a whole lot of sense, but there didn't as many people leave at this. But the suicide scene was one. The scene where the guy was kind of hanging up and had his lungs, like he was still breathing.
People didn't know it was a horror.
Like, I know, right? Like, you've already seen a daughter, like the remnants of a daughter killing her parents and herself.
That was the start. Jeez.
Like, yeah, at the start of the fucking movie. So, like,
what was the third one, though?
Obviously, it's a fucking. The third one was the kind of cult sex scene.
Oh yeah.
That was the weird one. Like.
And I mean, I can understand. I can understand why there were some things that, like,
that one was weird. That one was weird for me.
Yeah, like it was definitely weird.
I couldn't imagine like like just full out butt naked fucking. Like I fucked a chick in the middle of a crowd once at a concert, but like my pants were pulled up. You know, I pulled it through the jeans, and you know, like she was wearing a skirt. Like like I did a lot of stupid shit when I was a fucking teenager. So
yeah, but it wasn't.
It wasn't like just
intimate.
like I'm getting butt ass naked.
Well, yeah,
like,
it was
here in the mosh pit.
It was but in the scene it was intimate, and that was the fucked up part.
Intimate with fucking 16 people,
and it was obviously like I took that was the girl's mother.
Yeah, which is even weirder.
Where
like,
just
but
like,
apparently,
yeah,
like forced
girl,
incest is a thing there too. So it's like, it's even more weird.
Well, there was one thing in continuity-wise that stuck out to me. So they said it's been 90 years since we've done this. It'll be another 90 years since we do it again, or whatever.
Yeah.
They obviously need the seed of men outside of their group in order to keep a healthy bloodline.
Yeah.
So they just like that man came in there. The Christian came in there and impregnated the girl. At least so we assume. It's not like that only happens once every 90 years.
Yeah.
Would you think? Unless her offspring are meant to create more offspring.
Like, I think the only part of that is every 90 years is the temple.
The temple itself, the sacrificing of the
people.
I think
that's the only thing that's 90 years, because everything else has to happen more frequently for them to keep that place
That's what
up.
I mean.
Like, people turn 72 a lot more frequently than 90 years.
Yeah.
So,
of course. No,
like,
and I know that would happen still.
Right? Like, that has to happen and they don't consider...
they didn't say those two people were 72.
They are.
Exactly, because they also said at the end, these were our two willing people who stepped forward at first, and then they also had two volunteers.
Not the people in that. I'm talking about the old people that do the cliff jumping.
No, the old people were not 72. That's what I'm getting at. So the old people who were not 72, who did it, they assumed they were 72 years old, and that's why they did it, because that's how he explained it to them, right? He said, when you're 72, and he said, oh, we're doing a blah, 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 and he's like, really, a real one? Yes. Next day, boom, two old people walk off the edge. You assume they're 72, and that's the practice. But they were actually sacrifices for the thing. But anyway, I just wanted to get that. And obviously, I guess you knew that too, because it sounds like you knew those old people were not...
No, I thought they were. Like, I thought that was just like...
No, so they were the first two ones that were made into like mannequins.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I get that.
When she was talking on the mic, or not on the mic, when she was talking to all the people, she said, we have the two people who have come forward and sacrificed their own lives, and we need the volunteers and whatever it was to fill in all of the 9 people. I don't assume those two people turned 72 on the same day, went and walked off the cliff, just happened to be right during their sacrifice thing.
Their birthdays aren't considered by day or month, it's considered by season. So if you get born in...
Did they say that and I missed it?
They do say it at one point in the film. I don't remember where. I've just seen the film a few times, so it's something that I caught in one of my viewings. So, like, if you're born in so the beginning of summer is the beginning of the year, of their year. And so that's where the beginning of your birth is. So,
Gotcha.
And that's when they start counting the seasons. So that's the reason, like, these people...
That's a big one. Sorry, I missed that.
It's fine. We only watched it once. I've probably watched this movie 20 times. So, like, I've caught a lot more shit. Again, it's in my top 10 favorite horror films. So it's like, it's one of the most beautifully shot horror films, in my opinion. The dude is a fantastic director and a fantastic writer. I digress. That's...
No, that's not digressing at all, because I was thinking the same thing. I wanted to add to that. I think the part that made it so drastically impactful was that it seemed so normalized. The directing was great. It made it seem like you were just walking into a scene of something that would happen. It wasn't dramatized.
Yeah. I don't see too many horror films. I can't even call one off the top of my head that is that colorful and bright.
It kind of pulls you into a peaceful place to bring in some fucked up stuff.
Yeah, like it's the colors in it are vibrant. It's not a normal tone for coloring in a horror film. So normally, if they have a vibrant tone, it's blood and that's it. But even the blood was like, for as much blood that there was in the bloody scenes, it wasn't.
It wasn't
tone
excessive.
of the blood,
And it wasn't
just like this
this
bright
brilliant pop.
stuff that pops out of the screen at you, like in a lot of horror films. It was a darker tone on the blood.
Because I think psychologically you're supposed to get hit.
Yeah.
You know, and it was almost like the horrors and the killing didn't bother me much because the psychology of it was so fucked up.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love about the film, and that's one thing I love about this director. He made another film called Hereditary, which I enjoy a lot, not as much as this one, but it's still a very good. It's still a very good one. Well, you haven't seen a lot of horror films, so
no, but I feel like I did want to watch that, or I have seen it, but I digress.
Yeah,
beautifully directed.
It is fantastic. It is fantastically directed. I think this dude's a breath of fresh air in the horror genre. I think he's definitely got the ability to do some things that are amazingly artistic while still being amazingly horrifying. And I think that perfectly sums up who this guy is as a director.
It's a lot
and
more
writer.
captivating. It's a lot more entertaining than just a regular horror film where everything is dark and dingy and you know, you just
everything's got like really muted tones
because you just never get to get
everything.
comfortable in movies like that.
Yeah.
You always have your guard up, but he made you take your guard down because you were accepting a beautiful moment, and then all of a sudden, you know,
and like, oh god, I was thinking about it last night. I was like, man, I really enjoy the score when the temple started burning. Like the score to that was just beautiful. It was a very beautiful orchestral piece, and then towards the end of it, where she's right before she starts smiling, and it cuts to that, where she's like screaming and kind of walking away with the giant gown of flowers. Like it starts adding in these kind of horror trills in the background of the orchestra, but it's still it's a mixture of your average horror kind of violin trills mixed with just this very beautiful orchestral piece, which do an amazing job of being different from each other, but still play into each other in a very wonderful way. And I think that's just a beautiful, or just an accurate description of the film. Is there is so much of the film that is very beautiful and that meshes so well with the absolutely terrifying and horrifying aspects of the film that I think that's why it's considered an art horror film, because it absolutely is a work of art. Yeah. So. Yeah.
But. So. Yeah, I thought it was great, and it was definitely.
I think it had more redeeming qualities than
120 days of Sodom.
Wow. Oh God, yeah.
I'd say you owe me a Coke, but I already have one.
Yeah, there you go. You just finished it.
Thanks, bud.
But yeah, so I think I think so. Even people that I don't consider to look at things like this from a psychological standpoint, or break things down, or think about this deeper, like you and me do about a lot of this stuff. There's someone that I appreciate very much. She's a principal at a high school now. She was my English teacher in high school for a semester, and she loves the film, which is super weird to me because she is really fairly religious, like so religious that it's almost cult-like, and I love her to death, but it's true.
Maybe that's what she appreciates, their ties to their values and their society.
Yeah. I mean, that...
Because
I don't think any religion could ever make me kill myself. Like, if I that's such a personal decision to me that it's like I don't think anyone's ever going to tell me to do that. I'm going to do it.
If you look at big cult stuff, I mean, there's always stragglers, and they have to force them into it because nobody agrees as a whole that it's time to end the only reality that I know.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's such a hard thing to do, to like even just as someone who's attempted suicide, just looking down the barrel of a gun and just being like, yeah, I can do eternity, you know, like, because that's what's next, or nothing is next. You don't know. Yeah. You know, so it's like that is a very difficult decision to make, no matter what mindset that you're in. Even if you are in a suicidal mindset, it's something that it's still a tough thing to go through with. It's still a tough decision.
Absolutely, because this is all you know.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
yeah, that's I think we've talked all about that. That's There's not much else I think that I could possibly say about it.
No, I'm trying to think. I wish we had freshly just watched it, but it was like 2:00 in the morning whenever we finished that stuff up last night.
So,
but yeah,
I think Epiphany should watch Midsummer. I think she might appreciate it.
I think she would appreciate aspects of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, and this is not to
Granted,
judge anything in any way.
I thought she would like Logan, and she didn't, which was weird.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Some people like being able to put things into categorical boxes to where they can understand them a little better. I mean, given Epiphany loves stuff outside of the box, right?
Yeah.
But like Logan, because they made it so real, kind of made it less theatrical. Not a lot, because I thought it was really still very theatrical and really good.
Yeah.
But when you try and make things more real, sometimes you mess it up. So like this beautiful art horror film, could be more bothersome than enjoyable for her. I don't know. For me, I thought it was beautiful in its own right. Other than, like I said, the obvious deception on such a grand scale.
Yeah.
That itself was kind of like, I'd bomb you if I knew where you were at and I knew what you were doing. I'd take y'all out. But that's a cultural thing. That's a cultural thing. That's me. And
looking at that
but only because they took people from a different culture and killed them.
Like you can't, I don't think that they
can't
would
take
get away
people
from
from
that.
different.
I think that would eventually be figured out.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, you just can't take people from a culture and from another culture and kill them and it be okay. And I think that was the only part that was not okay with their practices. If it all happened within their own little group, and everybody was happy about it, and that's how they wanted to go about it, I guarantee that if there are any pygmy tribes left in the world, that they're doing some fucked up stuff. They. Which I really wonder about that. Do we have any more of those little?
I have no clue.
Just left in the world untouched.
I have not. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever see them like people with like people who have like two toes and stuff like that? Like that whole tribe, like it was a whole tribe of people and they only have two toes. Human as can be.
Like from genetics, or they
genetically, and they only breed within their tribe, so everybody ends up with these two toes, and what they walk around in like flip flop type things that they make. And they're custom made shoes for everybody because they're like these deformed, crazy looking super toes that come out on their feet and stuff, and because they were just so isolated and kept within their own group. Yeah, bro. Yeah, they're halfway there. So there's a lot of stuff that was like that, and like even the 70s, 60s, they had a lot of films they brought back of people who were just really abnormal living amongst us. So I just wondered if any of those still exist. But if they do, I guarantee their practices are messed up. I watched one that came out in the 70s about the Americans going in and kind of screwing up the culture of these people. Well, the culture was to go and kill people from other tribes and eat them. But the thing was, killing them from another tribe was something that the medicine man like oh, go kill this person, and then they all go and they kill them. And the reason they ate them, not just because they wanted to be cannibals, because they didn't want to waste meat. So there's just these weird things. They came in with Christianity, told them about Christianity, everybody converted, and they had this sympathetic moment where they're like, the medicine man can't tell visions of who to go kill anymore because nobody will listen to him. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem too bad. I don't like that they brought in Christianity and put it upon these people who have they're savages of some kind, but they need some kind of structure, but I don't know if a religious structure was exactly it. You're just bringing them into a different kind of thing. Maybe that's a next step for them. But whenever those places, those little small places that we would never touch, they have some practices that we obviously would not agree with, such as that.
Yeah, I mean, but they also, I think the ones that are left, they really don't let us come in. There are a couple islands I know of that I've heard of that you can't get close. Arrows all over the bottoms of the plains and stuff. Like they don't even let you get close. That stuff still exists a little bit, and there's some that are even just land bound that you just can't go into the area. So it's something that it's not a lot of them, I don't think. But
so let me ask you: if those people exist within their own society and they're untouched, such as the people in Midsummer, if they didn't branch out and go take Americans and people from London, whatever, is it okay? Is it okay for them to practice their rituals that are really messed up among each other?
I think that goes into
cultural acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain cultural acceptance there. That's the same thing as saying, like, well, you can't have a gun in this country in Europe, but we can have a gun in the United States. You know, like,
well,
I mean, that's
because we all,
yeah,
we feel a certain responsibility for it, or whatever it may be, if we could.
Exactly. So, I mean, there is a certain responsibility to be upheld.
But
this
is like killing of human lives.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about that, like, do you think that can be should be acceptable in all?
We have the death penalty.
Let's take this. Let's take a continent as large as, say, like, no, let's just take Africa, right? Africa, with all this chaos that's going on, and we don't have to intervene. If we saw it happening, could intervene, could do something about it, do you think it's right or permissible to do so?
I think
if their culture is surviving and they're doing what they want to do.
I think if they're doing what they want to do, then...
But it's really fucked up stuff. I don't know if you know that.
I mean, as long as they're not fucking with anybody else, it doesn't make sense to me to go to a place and tell them how to live.
How about a savage, crime-ridden culture where you see kids, mutilated, have their genitals mutilated, they get raped, killed, turned into soldiers at the age of 10? You think all of that's permissible if that's their decision within? Because it's crime-ridden. It's human lives going down the drain.
Yeah, it is, but I'm not here to tell another person how to live, right? Like that. Like, I'm not here to voice my opinion on an African country or an African tribe or whatever, and try to tell them how to live. I can't do that because for one, I've never lived there. I don't know what I don't know what.
Well, I know a 10-year-old's
shit
innocent.
They got.
By
yeah, no, I get
means.
that. And I'm not necessarily promoting it as much as I'm saying it's such a tough subject to be on. It's not something that's in my realm of living.
Gotcha. I was going to say, if hypothetically I felt like I could make a difference, should make a change, would you be against that because you yourself wouldn't?
I wouldn't say that, and that's actually something that's taking place. A lot of these countries where they were doing vaginal mutilations, instead of going and forcing people to do something, what they're doing is they're providing schools, right? So a lot of these independent companies have gone over there. They've set up schools to help train these people, and they're including women in that. And so these women are starting to get positions of power in their tribes and their communities, and all of that stuff is stopping. Like, it's definitely going way down. So it's more of an education thing than a force thing.
Yeah.
So
that is an elegant way of, doing that, of bringing in good influence.
Exactly.
But I think the interesting thing is if you or I didn't want to do that, there's always going to be somebody who thinks they can, should, or like
forcefully do it.
Yeah, intervene in some way. They feel that it's appropriate for them to do so. Somebody's going to have that, and I think that's where somebody feels driven enough to do that, and
and it's shitty.
I guess
I think for me, education is important. Like, I'm constantly I use a website called Coursera, and I just constantly take one. Like, I'm always doing one class on there at a time. One that's running, because they have different ones run at different times.
That's how it said. I thought it was Coursera. I have it too, but
yeah. So that's one of the very, very few subscription things that I've kept on during during all the shit going on, because I think education is important. I think education is something that should never stop, right? And I think that anyone can benefit from education. No matter what background you have, no matter what,
I think I agree,
where you're from. I think just knowing things, even if you never use it,
is better than blissful ignorance.
Yeah. I can't take blissful ignorance. That's like a terrifying thought to me, is just being ignorant on something. So if there's a word that I don't know and someone says it, I go look it up, and I go look up the history of the word, so that way I know the context of it and where it came from.
I have fucked up my idiom so many times in my life.
I know, right? And even words that I think that I know the meaning of, like angst, for a long time, just based on context clues, I thought it meant something other than what it did, and so I eventually
This is basically an anxiety type of trigger.
yeah,
Okay.
basically.
That's what I thought it was, but I honestly didn't know the exact definition either. I have gone off of what I've heard said culturally.
Yeah.
And
So
social media and everything.
I've heard the term teen angst used to describe teens doing stupid shit.
No.
Right? Like, well, that's the thing.
It could be associated, but not.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like I've used it, I've heard it used in that way so many times, just by the news and certain other media formats and just people talking in general, that's what I thought it was, and that's not what it is, and that's so it completely fucked with me when I looked up the definition. But I was like, oh shit, I've been kind of using this wrong. I feel fucking horrible.
See, well, we can't be hard on ourselves either. We're human. So if
Yeah.
we're using it wrong, there's a good chance that, the
Correcting
70% intake that made us perceive it wrong,
Yeah.
those people were wrong too.
Yeah.
And those were influential people. You find out influential people fuck up all the time. They're just not afraid to get back up and do it again. So what you see is their success at the end.
Yeah.
So that's just, you can't get caught up on that stuff, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I can get there too, where I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. I can remember correcting people on words, and like they were like, oh, and they felt stupid, and I was like, yeah. And then I go back home and I find out that they said it correctly and I said it incorrectly, and I'm like, when they find out, they're gonna think I'm such a moron. You just can't get hung up on it. We're all human.
Yeah.
Everybody fucks up.
And I think the biggest piece of that is not being afraid to correct yourself, because I think that's a thing that happens a lot, is that people are afraid to correct themselves these days, and it's something that
Don't be afraid to embarrass yourself either.
Yeah, like I'm not too afraid to be embarrassed in most situations.
While I fuck it up.
So yeah, it's I don't have any pride for that.
Good.
So. And I hate quoting this, but pride goeth before a fall. I hate quoting religion, and I hate proverbs.
Dude, sometimes
and all
you just
got
to take wise words for what they are. I'm not okay. If we're going on the books here, I wouldn't call myself a Christian these days by typical terms at all. I would say that I still follow the practices of Jesus, but I can't believe in the religion of God and Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just something I can't take any, I can't accept it in its entirety, because there's just too many other outside factors. I'm not afraid to accept that there are other options, other possibilities. I don't want to keep in that little confined box, like we were saying, where you're afraid of the knowledge you might attain.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be around people who challenge how you think, and thank God I surrounded myself with those people. That seems pretty... thank God. But I surrounded myself with people who have said, have you ever looked at it this way? Actually, consider this. Consider the possibility of this. Without that, we're not branching out, growing, becoming wise through our age. We're just blissfully ignorant, going in our path that we want to go in and blinders on.
Which to me is I do that. I continue to learn, because if I continue to learn, then I can help push people younger than me and future generations to continue to learn, because I may never influence one person, but I might influence one person to do something greater than me.
Then season everything you do with
that's enough.
Yeah, season what you do with good. I had the right word, beneficial content, something that's going to help people along in everything that you learn, as long as you're not talking about it critically. The world's so ultra fucked up, we're fucked forever, nobody can ever get unfucked. Guess what, kid? You're fucked. Everybody's fucked. I'm fucked, you're fucked. But if you get past that and you say, you know what, okay, let's say everything is kind of fucked. Everything, generally, we all eventually die. Things are never perfect. We never get everything we want, but there are redeeming qualities to life. So you pull all that in, and you see things like this and understand there are different cultures, MIDSOMMAR and stuff. I think learning all of that stuff is wonderful. It expands you. Expands your mind and helps you understand and do more with what you have. So I say dig into all of it.
Some of the people that I'm closest with are really are religious Christians, which is really weird, because I'm the opposite of that. And so, but we can all agree to disagree, and I think that's something that is lost very heavily in our society today is just agreeing to disagree. You know, like we may not agree on this, but we can agree that we're both human beings and that we both have something to bring to the table.
And I think what drives it is passion. Because if you're passionate about something, it's kind of hard not to want to impress it upon other people for the benefit it's had to you. And that's why I'm not upset with Christians for going out and trying to preach at other people, because in their religion, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. That is like law, you know, like in a way they feel they are doing the best thing they possibly can for the world, you know? So, you know, if you understand both sides of that, then it doesn't seem as offensive whenever people are impressing their ideas. You're just like, hey, you either take it or you don't. You either see its benefit or you don't. And I'd say the main thing is when taking everything in critically, like we were talking about, you want to know as much as possible so you can help people or have enough information to give to people.
The way that I've always looked at that is like, if you knew that the world was going to end because of this and you don't tell anybody, you're kind of a piece of shit. Right. And this is my
that's such a 50-50.
Like,
so it is hard because there's somebody it would be better that they didn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And then there would be those who would rather know. I would rather know. If I had 24 hours to live.
Yeah. I'm going to go have some fun, man. I'm not going to try and hurt anybody, but I'm going to go have some fun. I'm going to probably go like do some shit that I've never done before.
Oh, I'm going to take out the biggest loan you ever heard of and go do the craziest shit for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, like that's why it's a 50-50 when people are influential, you know, they're likely going to influence people. When you see somebody who's influential fucking up in what you like in a heart matter cannot let go, I think it's okay to try and impress a better thing upon them, you know. And if they don't listen to you, so be it. You know, we may go through our whole lives not being influential, but the main thing when taking in all of the information, the good and the bad, is not letting all of it hold the same weight. Because whenever you understand there's bad and you understand there's good and you hold both of them at the same height, everything is nothing. So, you know, for what's good and what's bad, pay attention to the good. Now, that actually is a little bit biblical, too. I'd say that's the first reference of meditation on good things that I can think of. I'm sure there's other religions.
Because, again, it goes back to it's the same thought process earlier where the bad things stick out more than the good things.
They do, and it's how impressionable they are. It's how much it really struck you, and that's why bad things stick out, because bad can really
that can screw you up.
Bite.
But
when taking everything in, if you see that fucked up stuff, you know, don't assume that everything's fucked because you saw some fucked up stuff. You know, there's so much more good in the world now than bad.
Yeah, it really is. Like like especially like with the shit going on with Minneapolis right now, like
what's happening? I don't know.
Well, the George Flynn stuff, the guy that got killed.
Yes.
So, like, Amish people are coming out. I was telling you this as we were coming in from the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, Amish people are coming out and protesting. Like, that's fucking awesome. And like, there's a couple of people I've seen on Facebook like, oh man, that's got to be a lie. Amish people don't have electricity. Like, you've obviously never met a fucking Amish person.
Right, they have to. Like, they have to have like little card readers at you know, the little local farmers markets and junk. Like,
so
they're not.
They have to have that stuff. They have to have it just like we do, but they have a very, very minimal usage of it. But if like they still have to go to the store just like we do, you know. And when they go to the store, I used to live in one of the biggest Amish communities in Tennessee. They bought land from my grandma. I had land next to her on the other side. So they bought some land from her, and they bought land from all these other people in Stantonville, Tennessee. And it's a really small. Like, you could literally blink and you'll miss it. Like they say, like you heard the term blink and you'll miss it. You could literally do that here because it's just an intersection and that's it. And there's not a stop sign or a light at this intersection. It's literally just like, it looks like just two little side streets. And that's the intersection that makes up Stantonville, Tennessee.
Wow.
So you literally could just like yawn really hard and you've gone in and gone out.
Yeah.
Like, so those people were fucking awesome. But one thing that I noticed, we had this little shop down the road It was a really tiny spot that if you didn't want to spend the hour it was going to take to go to the Walmart and come back, you go to this store and like pick up some milk or whatever. And the Amish people would go there. They always had newspapers that they would take back with them. They'd just take a stack of newspapers with them.
Yeah.
And then they would also hang out there and they would turn on either CNN or Fox or some form of news, and they would sit there and watch it on the TV in the gas station.
They're a part of the world. They want to know what's
Exactly.
going
Like, and so it kind of pissed me off seeing that because people are like...
So ignorant.
Yeah, like, and I get that they just may have never actually met an Amish person, or maybe they've never been in a situation to do that, and maybe I'm the lucky one for being in that situation. But I think it's insane to think that any culture is so far removed, like any culture that's in the middle of America is so far removed from society that they don't have any idea of what's going on. Like, they have to have some idea. It's impossible in the country we live in. We are one of the most technologically advanced. We're definitely not at the top, but we're pretty far up there as far as technological advancement in our country. And that seeps through to every little part. Homeless people have cell phones. And I don't for a minute think that means anything other than it's just a homeless person with a cell phone. You know?
That's their best thing in life, probably.
Yeah.
That is their lifeline.
Exactly. And like everyone needs one of those. Everyone needs to have some form of phone. So I'm granted all the ones I've ever seen, they have these little cheap flip phones, you know? But
I don't know if I'd agree that everybody needs to have a phone, but I would say that I would never hold it against anybody for having one in any culture, religion, anything like that. Because part of our lives now as Americans or all over the world is that we have our identity here in the physical world, and we have our identity out in the virtual
digital world.
Yeah, so we're basically on the edge of being cyborgs already, because half of that, most of our representation is through technology.
Yeah,
who we are more than just everyday interactions, other than close knit friends.
Yeah.
So it is, but I wouldn't say everybody would need one. For some people, they might be better off. I know the Amish aren't probably all running around playing on their cell phones all day. Yes, they keep up with current events, but they're probably living more life being in the moment than wondering how they look.
No, I get that. I'm saying just like a communication tool,
sure,
like an instant
then,
communication tool for like
great
emergencies.
That we're always available.
That's true, and I agree with that, which is why I turn my phone on D&D for like, I'll turn it on and I'll end up forgetting about it for days at a time.
Yeah, they'll say,
which sucks because like after a few days I'm like, no one's messaged me. What the fuck?
Yeah, people
like something's wrong.
I'm trying to call you for days, and then I'm like, oh, do not disturb.
Oops.
My bad. But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best thing, but yeah, if it's something that can help somebody, then by all means they should be able to get it.
Like, I wonder how much, like, just thinking about the commune in Midsummer, like, how much of that is, like, how much do they know about the world, Like,
that is an interesting take, because, they send a couple people out there.
Yeah.
Now, given old boy who's Swedish, all he ever did was sketch.
Yeah.
You don't see him messing with any technological stuff, but he did take a plane. He had means to do that, so somehow he had money, or so there's a lot of stuff where they had to, act with outside culture in order to get anywhere.
Yeah. Like they had to have, and he seemed like an intelligent person, like he seemed like he was at least well versed enough to go to college and to actually fit in with that crowd in a time where
figure out their societal norms.
Yeah, exactly. And like integrate into it, but still hold his composure and himself.
And his own values and all that in the midst.
Still hold that up, So it's definitely, I think that's like a whole nother thread of that film is just how much of it, like, I think that also goes
how separated are they really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think that also goes into the deception part of that is like...
But that's why I said, like, the deception almost seems natural to them.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they're doing the best thing.
Yeah.
And, like, that was... And given it's fucked up. But same reason earlier when I said I would, like, I would totally just drop a bomb on them. Like, I don't know if that would be my first instinct, but if people are taking from one culture, like I said, and killing,
with
like,
that, I would like.
that's not a good thing.
I
There
don't
should
think
be
you would
some
have to waste a
ramifications.
bomb on that. I think you could probably just send a couple of trucks and like,
round them up and kind of shut it down. Yes, I do think that, but yes, that it gets challenging when it gets to interfering with those places because they just have a different culture.
Yeah, and you have to respect that to a certain degree.
To a degree,
like they're not coming over here and they're not telling us how to live in our culture and our place. We're not over there telling them how to do theirs, and I think that that's an important thing, especially with the climate in our country. It's something that I don't see many people coming over here and telling us to follow this culture as much as it's other cultures coming over and they're just saying, hey, we're just going to hang out here and we're going to do our thing, So, which I think is something a lot more people need to be just aware of, is somebody from another culture can come over and as long as they're following our laws, then that's all that matters. Like, if they want to preach how they want to preach, they can preach. If they want to pray how they want to pray, they can pray, But as long as they're just following the laws that we have, it's all good. So
yeah. Then you get to, North Korea.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus, fuck.
But see, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
I'm not afraid of North Korea.
But, well, no, me neither. But I'm saying, like they're very oppressed within their culture. Is that okay?
Dude, have you ever listened to Henry Rollins? Not like his music, but ever listened to him speak? Like, so he talked about going to North Korea. He said it took him 4 years for them to approve him going over there, and he had to have a government escort the whole time because it was just one guy coming from America to North Korea, and they thought he was a spy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
right?
But even if you played into that society after being in this one, would you not want to rebel and straighten things out and
a little bit like he did, but so the way that he played it is he just went along with it because he just wanted to meet people. Like that's what he does. He goes around the country. He picks a country on the map he's never been to, and he just goes and meets people. Like that's what he does. And that's something that I appreciate because that's something that I want to do and something that I've wanted to do before I even like started really looking into him, is just go and meet people and talk to people. Cause that's,
for all they're happy within their really fucked up culture.
Yeah. Like, well, not even that, but it's like he would go, he went there and he saw the hunger and everything, but he also, like the government people that were supposed to be on him the whole time, the guy's name that was supposed to be with him, I think his name was Kim. Mm-hmm. And he said at the end of it, the guy broke down and gave him a hug and was like, I want to come to America and hang out with you. And like he completely went against his government training and all this to do that. And it's like him just going out there and just being a real, nice guy and just hanging out, that like, and I think that's important for people as a whole. Just be nice to people, even if they live somewhere else, even if they live in a place that
there's
has
all kinds of cultures I want to see just to get a glimpse, just to see
like
a couple of them that seem really peaceful, wonderful, beautiful places of beautiful culture and beautiful ways of life.
Oh, he'll go to war-torn countries. He went to Syria while Syria was in the middle of our war. Like,
but I'm saying it works both ways. I'm pretty sure that those people would impress upon me some good things if I went to a place where it was somewhere where it was that wholesome culture, as well as the ones where it's a little bit darker and you're kind of a little bit more of a light because you're a little less tarnished than the surrounding stuff. Like when the dude went to North Korea and the dude was like, I want to go against my own stuff because I see something wonderful about you. The way that you live.
Like so
maybe that's just it. Maybe it's just impressing the better things upon everybody that you meet everywhere that you go.
I think that's his whole point of that is like, even when he goes to these war-torn places, like when he's not in a place that's like having a battle at that moment, everyone is like, they're kind of weird because they're not used to seeing a white guy like covered in tattoos walking down the street there, but eventually like someone will come up and say hi to him or something, and they'll be like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm here to meet you. What's up, man?" And like he just starts talking to him, and like he develops just rapport with people just by sitting there talking to him and learning that it's really just a long form way of learning that humans as a whole, for the most part, most humans, we're just living day to day. We're just trying to get by day to day, and we're just trying to survive.
And we're doing the best with what we know, and often we don't have all the tools that everybody else has.
Exactly.
If they're doing great. And that's...
Exactly, and that's... I mean, he's spent a lot of money to come to that conclusion, which I don't think you have to do, but I think if you take someone, if you were to take Billy Bob from down the road, down a dirt road or something, and put him into an uncomfortable situation like that, and just have him tag along with you, I think that would change a mind, just hanging out with people,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think that, like, I've been reading a lot about Henry Rollins recently. So originally this is way off.
I was gonna say we're just going further and further, aren't we?
Yeah. So last thing I'll say about him, he did a lot of. He was really into the West Memphis 3 thing that happened when I was a kid. I was a kid in Memphis, so that was something that affected my life when I was a kid. It affected a lot of kids in Memphis as far as being able to go out and
West
all that
Memphis
kind of stuff.
3?
Yeah, the West Memphis 3. So
yeah,
these were 3 kids that they were basically kids that were put on death row for...
I do remember that.
Then it was nothing more than they wore some heavy metal T-shirts and, looked different. So that was... So that was a big thing in my area because that was my area, and so that's something that that's what I knew him from as a kid and from growing up, also as an actor. So, because he's an actor in some films and he's not a bad actor by any means. But I'm going to cut that off there.
Right on.
Check out if you just YouTube Henry Rollins, he's got some wonderful things.
Okay.
Some wonderful kind of stand-up spoken word. No.
Okay.
So final thoughts, I guess, about the main point of the discussion.
I like that we go off on tangents at the end. It's wonderful.
That's why
Somebody
it's called
really
tangentialism.
Wants to hear our rantings. Thanks.
That's why it's called tangentialism, right? So,
but yes, so 120 Days of Sodom, you don't have to watch it. It's just all about asses, shit, and rape and murdering and torturing and turning people into objects. If you were some rich, fucked up individual, that's what that's about. And then Midsummer is an art horror, which I think you can understand some beautiful aspects of. In its entirety, of course, not permissible, but still it has redeeming qualities. It does have a couple things that are beautiful, and it's worth watching, I'd say.
I really wish you had a neighbor outside last night between films when you ran out.
When I walked outside and all I can think about is dicks and shit.
Yeah, and you yelled that out.
As I'm walking out of my door at 10 o'clock at night, our neighbors often have their windows open on cool nights, and it's their kids' windows. And I come walking outside, and I'm talking to Patrick as I'm walking out the door. I throw the door open, and I said, "Oh, man, now all I can think about is dicks and shit." And then said, "Wow, I probably shouldn't have yelled that right when I walked out my door in the middle of the night."
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Moments like that. Well,
have a good day, everybody. All he can think about is dicks and shit.
Boomer Peat, signing out. Dicks and